Morning, everyone.
Morning.
Apologize for my voice. I'm dealing with the crud everybody else is dealing with. So, interesting note how important a meeting like this is for everyone to be a part of. The LST was a ship that was owned by the Greeks, and a group of men got together and decided they wanted to bring it back to the United States. It was made here in the U.S. This particular ship was made in Pennsylvania. So, through a lot of peril and tremendous effort, this group of men, which ended up being 27, sailed the ship from Gibraltar back to the United States. Through multiple mechanical failures and issues, sickness, illness. It's an older crew. The average age was in the mid-70s. They got the ship back close to the United States. The ship was interdicted by the U.S. Coast Guard in Bimini, which is down by the Bahamas. When the Coast Guard came on, I'm sure they shook hands and glad-handed everybody and asked how things were going. But their intent wasn't to find out the status of the crew. Their intent was to come on board to step on the Second and the Fourth and probably the Sixth Amendment. The ship came back with operational guns. It has twin Bofors 40mm cannons on the front and a lot of 20mm Oerlikons. They weren't concerned about anything else than that. And they required the ship demill those guns before they came back into U.S. territorial water. So we don't have operational guns. They cut the bolts all in half. My role on the ship is engineering crew as an electrician, but I'm also a gunsmith. So I've helped to rework the guns to the point where we can now simulate fire using gas and oxygen. So just an interesting note that the Coast Guard took away some very valuable items from the ship. Now let me read the preamble. Congress of the United States began and held at the City of New York on Wednesday, the 4th of March, 1789. The conventions of a number of states having at the time of their adopting the Constitution expressed a desire, in order to prevent misconstruction or abuse of its powers, that further declaratory and restrictive clauses should be added, as in extending the ground of public confidence in the U.S. government will best ensure the beneficent end of its institution. Big words. Resolved by the Senate and House of Representatives of the United States of America in Congress assembled, 2/3 of both houses concurring that the following articles be proposed to the legislatures of several states as amendments to the Constitution of the United States. All or any of which articles, when ratified by 3/4 of said legislatures, to be valid to all intents and purposes as part of the said Constitution. Articles, in addition to an amendment of the Constitution of the United States of America, proposed by Congress and ratified by the legislatures of several states pursuant to the 5th article of the original Constitution. So that was the preamble. Now just a quick note, Chris told me I could have a little moment to opine here. I don't watch Saturday Night Live, not a big fan. But through social media, I get their reels and skits and everything. So there was a skit not long ago where it was a bunch of gentlemen dressed in period attire, the 1770s. And they were gathered to discuss the Bill of Rights. And they all agreed on the First Amendment. Everybody was celebrating. So the man looks around and he says, "What shall the Second Amendment be?" And there's just a guy sitting in the back. He's a ubiquitous, conservative-looking man, different, he stood out. All he said was, "Guns." So they wanted to clarify that. So they asked him again, "What do you mean by guns?" He said, "Have guns." They tossed around some ideas and it came out, the final language was bear arms. Very important that we continue this tradition. So don't recommend you watch SNL, but that's a skit worth seeing. It's a little humorous, but it does paint a picture of this gentleman in the back of the room named Matt. So be a Matt. Thank you.